Happy New Drift, hello everybody, and welcome to the Motorsports Park. Drifting is a very emotional type of sport, which has its negative aspects, such as when your car isn't sufficiently prepared, or it's not quite set up right for a particular racetrack, when the judges miss something or their rulings aren't what you'd hoped for, or the driver isn't quite on point. How good the execution was remains to be seen, and that angle is way too extreme, with Anatoly Sherbak losing control. But there can be positives also, like when the car is properly set up for a track, which can make for spectacular tandem drifting and a good time for the driver. The technical aspect is the only thing that we control and are responsible for, and in this video we'll tell you how we set the cars up, how they're built, and the reasoning behind it. Finally, we get to discuss the S13 Silvia, which is one of the most significant examples in our collection of Silvias. It's one of the first ones we acquired. The first was the 200SX, but while that was being built, Anatoly got impatient and bought an S13. Back then it had an H-pattern gearbox, regular wiring, an unmodified JZ engine. He drove it at Sochi Drift Challenge, he liked it, and we decided to fully overhaul the thing. It received a Yanvar ECU, a fully built JZ. That chassis was on the road with us for a while, and at some point we decided to throw an LT5 into it, just because we could. The shell was just sitting around, and we had an engine that we needed to use somewhere. We laser scanned the shell and the motor, then joined the two, and though it was a tight fit, it did work. From there we investigated the condition of the shell, and in the process of getting it prepared for paint, we decided it does need a bit of work. And what started with just patching up the rocker panels grew into a total revision of the transmission tunnel, the floor pan, the rear bulkhead. The car is currently running a supercharged LT5 engine, which already produces 750 horsepower in stock form. We'll be throwing a Motec ECU into the mix. Originally they fitted this engine to the Corvette ZR1, and in that application it's a peach. Those are fast cars. The engine itself is durable. There haven't been any recalls. But when it comes to racing, the dual fuel injection system can be an issue. That system combines regular port injection with high-pressure direct injection. And the only means of tuning the direct injection would be with a Motec or a Syvex control unit. And so we bought a standalone ECU, also a ridiculously expensive license to tune the ECU, and we're setting up some quality wiring. As it sits, the car requires some wiring work, and a few cosmetic touches after the previous season. Last year we did 2 events in it, also some testing. That was on the stock ECU, and everything went just like we expected. The engine is responsive, but the rev limiter proved to be a bit of an issue. The drop in RPM is way too dramatic when you hit it. Like 500 revs, it goes like... which isn't very convenient. Also, when you let off, the engine essentially stays on boost. You let off the gas, but the car keeps pushing forward for a bit. Hopefully we can fix that with the Motec. Otherwise, it's a great car with a killer engine note. It actually became hard to bear standing next to it, when the engine would be at full tilt. People would do the cross, horses would rear up, women would cry, kids would point fingers. We got exactly what we wanted. We'll continue work on it this year, and we'll see where things go. The spec sheet will include, well, the LT5 engine, of course, a Samsonas gearbox, a 2-disc Clutchmasters clutch kit. It works pretty reliably with a V8 engine, the obligatory carbon fiber prop shaft, a Winters diff, and a Wisefab V3 steering lock kit, with regular Wisefab in the back. Inside we'll of course have a DK Lab handbrake, Motec gauges, a couple of Motec PDMs to get everything wired up. This car is something of a test bed, so we will be trying other solutions going forward. We want to try suspension travel sensors, add sensors to the clutch, the handbrake, and the primary brakes to keep track of everything the driver is doing and how the car is behaving. Here we have an S15 Silvia. We also initially bought just the shell. I think Anatoly acquired it in Sochi, and it was added to our fleet in the form of a shell with a roll cage. The cage was painted in red candy, while the body was blue and white. We were dragging it around, and at some point we decided to build it up. It was being built for the 2023 season of RDS GP in the city of Almaty. We managed to fit a 2J with a dry sump system. That was the first time we went with one from Daily Engineering, which is a good piece of kit, with minimal plumbing and maximum efficiency. And while building the car, we focused on keeping the center of mass as close to the middle as we could. We mounted the fuel tank and the oil reservoir right before the axis. Now initially this S15 was of course right-hand drive. That's how we built it. And this was our first experience using Wilwood brakes and Tilton pedals. So we built the car and entered it into RDS GP. And our first GP outing at the Moscow Raceway went horribly for us. Turns out there were holes through which smoke was making its way inside. During practice there was light rain. There was some smoke, but not a lot of it. But by qualifying, the track had completely dried out, and after practicing, Anatoly complained that the cabin was filling with smoke. And while we had some time to spare, we proceeded to plug some holes. So we did that, but turns out we plugged the ones that allowed the smoke to escape. But the ones through which it was entering were still open. And during qualifying, the cabin filled with a ton of smoke. It was really bad. An absolutely monumental fail. We were obviously upset. This was the first time ever Anatoly failed to qualify. The car itself was fine, but with all of that smoke, if you watch the onboard footage, it's like this much. Like fog, hedgehog in the fog. We of course investigated, tore the car down after the event, welded up whatever we could, and solved the issue for the most part. From there, the car served us for most of the season, but near the end of the season in Sochi, I think Anatoly was in the top 8. And the event in Sochi was terrific. The weather was great that day. And later we found out that this would be the last time ever that RDS would come to the Sochi racetrack. No more races in Sochi after that one, and no more racetrack for drifting. When we first built the car, it had a V2 Weissfab kit, which we continuously modified. We did that until right before the race in Sochi. We finally got it right. The steering was now proper, the car no longer wobbled. That's when steering feel is very vague on center, but seems to get into the right position at speed. The fact is that for the entire season we were trying to get the steering and the suspension properly set up, experimenting with racks, power steering pumps, Ackerman angles, steering knuckles, suspension arms. After the 2023 RDS GP season, during stage 1 of the Sochi Drift Challenge, we dialed in the V3 Weissfab kit where the rack is mounted up front. Now this might be circumstantial, but the reality is that Anatoly was best in qualifying for stage 1 of SDC. At first they called it 100+, but it actually turned out to be 98. Oh, he's doing very well. Now that was impressive. Keep it up, yes! Awesome job! That was fantastic. He's getting 200 style points for that. Well done. He only had to smash the rear end during his first run to show how it can be done. He was really going for it. In our attempts to dial in the steering, we replaced the old power steering pump with one for a Mini. It was an interesting solution, but it had certain negative consequences, in that it lacked either flow or pressure, and the steering wheel would bind during rapid transitions. If you do this sort of motion, the steering wheel gets stuck at first, and only after does it continue moving. This really irritated Anatoly, and we of course attempted to fix it. We ended up fitting 2 pumps for a Volvo. But that didn't get rid of the effect altogether, even though it was minimized and the car was okay to drive with the 2 hydraulic pumps. But that time we entered with the V3 Weissfab and the single mini pump, and got through the race just fine. After that, Anatoly realized that right-hand drive wasn't doing it for him. The problem is that there were just too many collisions happening throughout the RDS GP season. It was totally unacceptable. While leading, he was doing just fine, but when following, he was coming dangerously close, or even slamming into opponents and losing the battle as a result. We gave it a bit of thought, because we were also competing in RDS Europe with a left-hand drive car, and his driving in that series was much more precise and crisp. We worked out that the placement of the controls might be the issue. And so for the 2024 season of RDS GP, we decided to finish putting together a left-hand drive car that we had. But we'll talk about that one later. Incidentally, this lovely car was subject to a rebuild, with the steering wheel relocated to the left. That process is almost complete. The engine, we fitted an identical 2J to it, with variable valve timing. We've got a more conservative turbo on there, a Pulsar G30 770. Our horsepower target is about 700, which should be enough, as the regulations are pretty lenient when it comes to grip levels. It has a Ross Performance dry sump system, which is the type we started with. We decided to give it a new lease on life here. It is a decent system. Suspension-wise, we're running a V3 WiseFab kit up front, but we're also experimenting with electric power steering in this one. We found a control unit that would allow running EPS, and the steering rack itself is a lovely unit from a BMW, and this year we're going to try it out. So the car is something of a testbed. The gearbox is a sequential unit from Samsonov. It's a generic 5-speed, and we are running a cut sensor that allows for quick shifting. We've got it cranked up to 11. Without it, gearboxes don't last as long, and we're not as happy. Otherwise, body panels will be plastic, no carbon fiber aside from the doors, which are lightweight and durable, and everybody loves them. Also, the door cards are concave. They free up a lot of space, allowing you to move your arms and elbows around. Yeah, they free up quite a bit of space. For this season, we plan to use it for practice or as a backup car, but that's not for certain. Maybe we'll like it so much and it'll be the main car. It's vital to see how the steering rack behaves. We might not be able to immediately work it out. Perhaps we'll have to do some extra work with it, but we should be able to tell whether it's worth it or not by mid-season. We might visit some events in Belarus, where we can try us some strawberry.
One time for the hometown, I got love for it, it's real. 2 times for the haters, man, cause I notice how this shit feel. 3 times for my family, dog, cause this shit done paid our bills.
What we have here is a Nissan 200SX, which was left-hand drive from the factory. And this was our first car where the controls were on the left side. For the near future, it will be our main car, with how well it performs in battle. The body is in good shape. Well, by that I mean it didn't take any serious hits. Whatever damage it did sustain, we fixed. But we're in the process of fitting a carbon Kevlar body kit to it. Lightweight brakes. As for the engine, this has got the most powerful and reliable of our 2Js. Our max horsepower target is around 800. We will tone it down for competition. We just want to ensure we have room for growth. This video is being filmed in March. We haven't been on the dyno yet, but we will soon. This has also got a dry sump, but the canister is located in the very back of the car, for a bit of a rear-end bias in the weight distribution. We went with hydraulic power steering in this one. Suspension-wise, we are running a V2 WiseFab kit with custom steering knuckles. In the rear, this has got a standard WiseFab kit of the type we use in all of our cars. The transmission is a Samsonov once again, Winters diff carbon prop shaft, OS Giken 4-disc clutch kit, which is a must for us. Because a 3-disc kit doesn't live for more than 2 events, while 4-disc kits last for half the season. They don't give us any headaches, and they go out slowly. The 3-disc clutches would fail abruptly and without warning. But the 4-disc clutches give you signs that they're on the way out and that replacement is due. Lots of carbon fiber. The doors, the door cards, the dash, everything that can be made very light is made very light. The fact that we were in the championship running in RDS Europe prompted us to fit a V2 WiseFab kit up front with custom knuckles, and the hydraulic power steering. All our cars have a variety of steering systems. Electro-hydraulic, electric, and just hydraulic. So we have a conventional hydraulic steering rack, a hydraulic rack with electric motors, and EPS. The complete range, across almost identical S-chassis cars. This car will be entered into RDS Open, formerly known as RDS Europe, and as RDS West before that. We might even do RDS GP in a wild card scenario. We do plan on entering the events in Moscow, do as much driving as we can, and have fun. That does it for this video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, let us know what other topics we should cover, and see you later.